Assalamu alaikum and good morning to everyone, dear students. I am Dr. Akhtar and I am discussing with you about the macroeconomics topics, and in this lecture I will be discussing with you about the business cycle, the fluctuations occurring in the economy. So this is a very interesting topic, and through this we can understand that how our economy is working. So business cycle actually is a graph. Business cycle actually is a graph, and this graph is showing the upward and the downward movement in the economic activity of the country. This is a graph, and which shows the upward and downward movement in the economic activity. Movements in the economic activity of an economy. So simply if we put here the graph, and vertically we write the real GDP growth rate, and just we say suppose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is the growth rate, the rate at which the economy of any country is growing. And horizontally, we mention the time. Either you are mentioning the time in the quarters or in the years. So here we mention the time periods. And we say suppose quarterly. So if we put the data on this graph paper, the data of the economic performance of any country, and the economies, they are not running in a smooth line. They are not running like this line or this line. Economies are running just like ups and downs. There are sometimes economies are doing very well, sometimes economies are doing very bad. And in this current time periods, the time period of the coronavirus, the COVID-19, economies of the world, they are suffering from the downfall. The economies, they are not doing very well. They are on the ECGs. So this graph is just like the ECG report of an economy, and by observing these ups and downs movements by economists, they are checking this constantly. They are observing these ups and downs on this graph, and they are suggesting the measures to correct the economic ups and downs accordingly. So I will be discussing the meaning, because these ups and downs have the meanings, and these ups and downs also create different situations. What happens when the economy is just rising, and what happens when the economy is falling? So to explain this concept, I repeat again that the business cycle is not like the cycle or the pedal cycle. The business cycle is a graph. This is simply a graph, and this graph shows the economic performance of any economy. But horizontally we mention the time, and vertically we mention the real GDP growth. 3, 4, 5, 6, just suppose this is the growth rate, and here we say time period. Uh, these are the dots according to the economic performance. These dots, you can connect these dots here. These are not coming. If we say suppose these are the ups and yes, we say suppose. Now this is the economic activity of any economy. That when there is upward movement, this rise has the name, this is upturn or upward movement, that the economy has started to rise. When economy has started to rise, it means the production of the GDP of the country is increasing as compared to the last time or the last year's same time period. So when there is upward movement, it means production is increasing. When production is increasing, it means the jobs, economy is creating the jobs. The income of the people is increasing. So when economy reaches this point, we call this point the peak. Every top of the graph, every top on the graph paper is treated as the upward, the peak. So peak, what is the peak? Peak is that economic position or that economic condition where economy is growing, reached the top, and then after this peak, economy is again started to fall. So what happens when there is a peak? Just like simply we can say this is the hilly area. When we are traveling through some hilly area in our country, especially in Sindh, if you are traveling in the Thar, where you can find ups and downs. If you are in the Balochistan, you can find out there are some very small hills, and sometimes we find very high, even in KPK, even in Punjab, or even when we travel from Hyderabad to Karachi, there are also various ups and downs. So this is like the hilly area. Sometimes we have top hills, very high, rising hills, and sometimes very low. Sometimes we have very tough type of situation, means lowest position. So what happens when there is a peak? Peak is the economic condition when production is high, when employment is high or increasing, when saving increases, when investment, because when savings increase, automatically investment increases. So these are the major benefits of the peak. But when there is a peak, there is one negative disadvantage, that prices also rise or inflation also increases. So in the coming classes we will be discussing these things, inflation and the unemployment or the jobs, in further detail. But just to understand that when we talk about the peak, it means economy is growing, our economy is doing very well. This is very happy situation for the economy. And then after this one, economy start falling, downturn, we call this one the downturn. Downturn is that economic condition where economy is started to fall from the peak, and usually we say it's a 3 months time period when the economy continuously falls for up to 3 months, we say it's a downturn. And then we have the recession. This is very important term, and this is very necessary to understand, because being the student of the commerce or business, you need to understand. And in the common discussions, people are also discussing on the TV shows that there is a recession in the country. So what the meaning of the recession? So the recession means, recession is an economic condition where the output or the GDP of the country is falling. When the GDP of country continuously falls for more than 2 consecutive quarters, if the economy is done for 3 months, there is a fall. If the same fall continues for the next 3 months, means 6 months, then there is a continuous fall. If this economic fall continues for more than 6 months, we say there is a recession in the economy. That when there is a recession in the economy, it means what happens in the recession? In recession, production falls, the economic output falls, or the GDP falls, the firms start producing less. Then, when production falls, means employment also falls. This also decreases. When employment decreases, means savings decreases, because employment means the income of the people. When income falls, then also savings also fall. When savings fall, investment also fall. But in the recession, prices also fall. You might be thinking that when prices fall, people feel very happy. But when it's a rule of the economics, the law of the economics, that whenever prices fall, production also falls. So fall of the production directly affects the jobs. So even in this situation, the COVID has badly affected the production because of the lockdowns or closures of the economies. Firms, they are producing less, especially the services sector. So people have lost their jobs and people, they are suffering severely, and they are looking towards the governments for the help. So recession is the condition, and currently there is a recession, even there is a depression. So after the recession, there is the term depression. Say suppose here. What is a depression? I hope you have heard the term depression. Even this is a disease people are suffering from. This is a condition of the person where there is mental disturbances, and in this condition people are not producing very well, and depression has the impact on the production of the people. But what we are discussing is not the human depression, it is the economic depression. So what is the meaning of the depression? Depression is that economic condition when economy falls, or the economic downturn or reduction in the GDP's growth rate, when economic condition is worse, when the GDP or this fall, the downturn continues for more than a year, or when recession continues for more than a year, we say there is a depression in the economy. We say that after the peak, economy starts falling. It's not necessary that always after reaching the peak it will start falling, but whenever at some point in time, economy will start falling, because sometimes it's not always rising, because it has to fall again due to the seasonal variations, because of various disturbances. So the depression is that economic condition where output of the country continuously falls for more than a year, and presently we are living in the depression-like situation. And in 1930s, decade of the 1930s, the first Great Depression occurred, in America and which has affected the Europe and other countries. During the Great Depression, American economy was almost seriously collapsed. More than 20% unemployment in America, production was very low, huge fall in the production. So that is why we say that the depression is the economic condition where production is low. So what happens in the depression? When there is a depression, production falls, employment falls, savings falls, investment falls, prices they also fall. We have also discussed same conditions in the recession. So what is the difference between the recession and the depression? In a joke-like situation, we are explaining that if your neighbor is unemployed, then we feel pain when our neighbor is without the job, without the income, and the people they are also feeling very pain that they are unemployed, their children they are not getting proper feeding or they are not enjoying the proper facilities, which is we say this there is a recession. But when I am unemployed, or the person himself or herself unemployed, the person feels the pain of the unemployment. So we say there is a depression. So this is the seriousness of the condition. When economy is falling or the fall in the GDP continues for more than 6 months, we say there is a recession. And if economy recovers, then we again repeat the upward movement, just like here. And it's not necessary that always recession follows the depression. Sometimes after reaching the recession, economies start recovering. So, depression is the worst economic condition and presently we are living in the depression. And here another term which is called the boom, the highest peak of the economy is called, or the highest top, these are the peaks. This is also the peak. This is trough, the bottom of the economy. Then again this is downturn. Not necessary that every downturn becomes a recession. It's not necessary that every recession becomes the depression. So that these are the ups and downs in the economy, and this one is the time period. That if you put the economic data of your country, even if you take the data, yearly data, Pakistan's real GDP growth rate data, and put on the graph paper, so you will have the graph like these types of the graphs. So we do not have the smooth line, and we can put here the smooth line, the trend line. So boom is the economic condition where production is very high, where unemployment is almost zero, and simply we can say there is only natural unemployment is there. Otherwise, every person who is willing to work will find out the job, will get the job, and then when people have the jobs means they have high income level. So when income of the people is high because they are employed, the savings of the people increase. In the boom condition, when the savings increase, ultimately savings have the positive impact on the investment, and the investment also, due to increase in the investment and due to increase in the savings, there is production increases. When we have more production, the income, when we have more income, means all people are earning income, then the negative thing of the boom, that prices will rise. and it will affect only those who are not the part of the economic activities. So, in this lecture, I have tried to explain the business cycle, the graph through which we explain that how economies are working, means how the economic output is fluctuating. This is simply the ECG of the economy, that economists, if they are checking that in the quarter economy has started to fall, then they put some sort of the injections in the economy and they try to correct the fluctuations. So thank you.